Welcome to It's a Woman's World, where we'll meet achieving women making a difference in our community. I'm Carolyn Bruna. Our guest is Ellen Davis, president of Life Health Home Insurance Group. Welcome, Ellen. Happy to have you here. You were recommended by Sheila Kaufman, a wonderful chef and cookbook author who's been on my show a few times. I believe she said that you're her insurance agent, and I know that she thinks highly of you.
That's very kind of her and very kind of you to have me on the show. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm actually curious about how and why you became interested in insurance. Do you know you're my first insurance agent to interview?
Really?
Yes. So does that mean you love math and you studied it in school and drifted toward wanting to help people, or what?
Well, it's a great question. I will tell you that I don't know anyone who wakes up when they're a kid and says, "Ooh, I'm going to be an insurance broker when I grow up."
All right.
Do I love math? Yeah, it's okay. Did I study it in school? Of course I did. Actually, I was actually a fine arts major, and then I realized I needed to eat, so I became a business major. I actually became interested in insurance. It's a little bit of a funny story. I lost a bet to my father when I was still in college, and the bet was that I had to get my insurance license. And his idea, he was an accountant in the insurance industry, and so he wanted to make sure that no matter what, I always had something in my back pocket to fall back on. And so I started learning about insurance and focusing on that while I was in school, because making money was a lot of fun when you were a teenager, early 20s. And that's how I got started. I lost a bet.
Losing a bet to your dad. Okay.
Absolutely.
What better way to go? When I looked up the qualifications for insurance agents, it said the first is good people skills. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely not.
Oh,
I don't. I think in any industry, you need to have good people skills if you're interacting with people. And some people have them, some people don't. Some people can learn them. Some people can't. And that's just the nature of how human beings are. I think the most important qualification for anybody dealing in the insurance or financial industry should be about caring for the client more than they care for themselves. You're helping someone make medical decisions, financial decisions, decisions that affect them today, and potentially decisions that affect them and their families in the future. Caring about their choices, their needs, their wants, their budgets today is much more important than anything else. Of course, you have to have good people skills, because you have to at least be able to speak to people, listen to people. Listening is a huge qualification, more so than I think speaking in many cases. And I would say that listening is probably one of the best good people skills you can have.
Oh, that's very interesting. That's probably true for many careers as well, actually.
Yeah.
While you were talking, though, and answering this question, I was thinking to myself, it's a very serious career, actually, working with people and making sure that you are helping them with their life. Gosh. Did you start your own company right away, or did you work with other insurance companies at the beginning?
Well, no, I did not start my own company right away, a long time ago. When I first got licensed, I did work for larger, what are called general agencies. I have never worked for an insurance company directly. That would be called a captive agent, so that they only focus on that one company and only the products that that company has. I have always been a broker, meaning I can represent many companies and many different programs. So I have worked with large and medium-sized general agencies. And then in 2009, I started Life Health Home Insurance Group and became a general agency myself. And then over time, I became Life Health Home Ellen Davis and slowly made a smaller company than the larger one I had created to help my clients actually a little bit better, to manage them a little bit better, and to slow things down a little bit.
Okay. So this way, though, at least you're able to pick from a number of insurances and a number of companies. Is that what you're explaining to me?
Yes, absolutely.
In order to
So,
help your
yeah,
clients.
in my entire career, I have always been licensed, again, with multiple carriers. So there are different types of insurance, and I know that we'll get into those. And with each type of insurance, there are different carriers. Some of them overlap, but they're different products, programs, licenses, certifications, things like that.
Oh, I see. Well, let's get into some of them now.
Okay.
I'm familiar actually with several types of insurance, like life and health and long-term care insurance, since I was a caregiver for my mom for 11 years. So would you give us, please, a short summary of these?
Sure. So life insurance, everybody says that they understand what life insurance is. You get life insurance, you insure somebody's life while they are alive, so that when they pass, there is some financial benefit that goes to the people, person, organization that they have left that money to. That's one way of thinking about life insurance. There are many ways to look at life insurance, how to utilize it, what it's there for. Is it for a business, key person coverage to protect a business? Is it life insurance to protect the longevity of somebody being able to live a certain lifestyle, to be able to make sure the kids get to college, to do many things, to leave a legacy either to children or to organizations, to charitable organizations or organizations that are close to you. So life insurance can be utilized in many different ways. And there are so many different types of life insurance. There's term, there's universal, there's survivorship, there's there are just many types. So it really does depend. So that's on the life insurance side. Then there's long-term care, and you've had direct experience, as I have as well, utilizing long-term care for both of my parents while they were alive. Oh. And I'm a big proponent for long-term care. I am, stand me on my soapbox, and I will talk about that until I have no voice left. And there are now less options for long-term care. So there's traditional types of long-term care, and then there are things called hybrids, and they work slightly differently than traditional. So they are to protect truly not necessarily the person who utilizes the benefit, but the family that has to give to that person. So people say caretaker, but actually when people have elderly parents or spouses or younger children, they are caregiving more so than taking. And so long-term care is really about making sure that there is money to be able to give care to the person in need and take care of the person who's giving care, so that they don't utilize all of their finances to care for the person that they love or the people that they love. And then, of course, there's health insurance, which we've all heard about. We've all been talking about it. And since the ACA has been effective, more and more individuals in the United States have had the opportunity to have health insurance. We unfortunately have a very short memory as human beings. And before the ACA came into place, we had what were called pre-existing conditions, in which a health insurance carrier would not cover you for certain healthcare for a certain period of time. There were denials. There were many other things that occurred, and many people were not able to get health insurance. With the ACA, there is no pre-existing condition. Everybody has the option to get it. There are no more, currently, there are no lifetime limits or yearly limits, whereas before we had very specific types of limits. So it works very differently. And I'm very happy to say that many more people have it to protect them, and having health insurance is incredibly important, no matter what age you are. So from there, then there's disability insurance, and disability insurance protects while you are what they consider working age. It's still kind of stuck a little bit in the past. So you do disability insurance until you're 65, or you add a bump up to 70. And so while you're working, it protects a certain percentage of your income if you are unable to do that job or any other job, depending on what happens. And then, of course, there's, in the healthcare realm, there's Medicare supplement once you turn 65. And that is what I like to call alphabet soup. It works very differently than health insurance, and people are not taught about how to make choices or thinking about Medicare for the long term as opposed to just this moment. Then there are also what are called fixed indexed annuities, and those are an insurance product that utilize monies to protect against the market, the stock market going up and down, but also has the ability to give you a lifetime income. So you don't get the highs and the highs. You know, if the market bears a 12% return, you don't get that. You might get a 5% return or a 6% return, but if the market drops 20%, you don't lose a cent. So that works for certain types of people, for certain types of product, for certain types of goals. It's not for everyone. It's for very specific needs. And those are, I believe those are all of the lines of insurance that I manage right now.
Oh, thank you. That's amazing. And I'm sure you had to study to learn all these different types. I somehow didn't realize there are quite so many, and they're quite so complex. I thought, you know, life was life and health was health, that you didn't have so many different aspects in each one of them. Gosh. I want to ask you about your tagline. You have a tagline that says, "Life happens and we're here to help you prepare for it." What does that mean to you and your clients?
So going back to what I was just talking about with each of the lines of insurance, it really speaks to your day-to-day life. Every day, possibly every hour, in some people's lives, their life changes. Life has changed in the blink of an eye for many people, for the good and for the bad. And if we don't prepare, if we don't think about the future, how do we get there? As we age, our need for care, either health care or physical care, increases. The cost of care goes up, and as we have seen, and the cost of care will go up because of what just happened with COVID, even though we are still in what I call COVID world. So the cost of care will continue to go up. But planning for the future is about living today with an idea of how to get somewhere. It doesn't mean that you'll get there. You may want to get there, but without thinking about the future, you might, all of a sudden 10 years might go by and you haven't planned for the care that you need, or the insurance that you need, or the assurance with an A that you would prefer to have. You'd like to put your head down on the pillow and go to sleep at night, but ooh, I forgot to put this in place. And now, you know, now I have this situation, now I have that situation, because every day changes. And you experience that even with your own parents caring for them, with your mom.
Right, I did, absolutely. Yeah,
And
yeah, gosh,
so, I mean, 11 years caring for your mom, your life changed.
very much so. Yes,
So
you got
that's
it
about
right.
planning. It's
Yeah,
about planning.
right, right. And things like that sometimes happen instantly without you realizing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or they might happen over a period of time when we talk about dementia or Alzheimer's, which
Ah,
is the number one killer in the world today.
true,
It's
true.
amazing.
Yeah.
So, and that's long term.
Hmm.
So there are many things that are long term and some are short term. But again, and
Hmm.
you cannot plan for everything. Nobody has a crystal ball. That would be amazing if we all did. But to have something in place, a thought, a step, that's all you
Yeah.
need.
Okay. I'm going to ask you, we only have a minute left for this
Okay?
half, but you mentioned that you work within a team concept. Could you explain that, please?
Absolutely. When you're working with a team, so planning as a whole, you can't do it in a vacuum. You generally have a group of people around you. You might not know that they're your team, your accountant, your attorney that created your will, your estate,
Hmm.
your insurance person, your this person or that person, your mortgage person, your real estate person. There are groups of people that, again, when you're making financial decisions or medical decisions, those are your team. That is your group. And if you make decisions without thinking of the whole, you're making decisions in a vacuum that may not allow you to get from point A to point B in the most direct route or the most efficient or the least expensive route.
Hmm.
So I look as a team. I work with somebody's group or help them put a group together so that their goals, their wants, their needs are
Right.
all moving toward what they want.
Well, that's interesting. I'm glad you said you also helped them put the group together because as you were speaking, I thought, do I have a team? Who is my team? But now you're going to force me to think about these aspects and look at it. Thank you. I think we're going to break. So we're going to break for a short public service announcement, and we'll return with Ellen's examples of the types of insurance we may need to live our lives comfortably.
My Shiro stretches every dollar, puts in long hours, puts others first. But now it's your time, Mom. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings now at aceyourretirement.org.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Ellen Davis, president of Life Health Home Insurance Company. Hi, Ellen. Welcome back again. First half of the show, you gave some summaries of the types of insurance that you provide. And when we talked initially, though, you had mentioned an example of a family and how insurance worked for them. So would you go through that, the family and how insurance is working for this family?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
But clearly, over the decades that I have been in this industry, many, many decades, there are many stories I can talk about my clients. And this one particular family, actually, we can talk about. So husband and wife, 3 adult children. The wife has an accident, and so they use their health insurance. Okay, but her need to start her long-term care started earlier. They needed some assistance, so she started using home care about 3 days a week, 4 hours a day, and over time it increased to 5 days a week, to 8 hours a day, to 7 days a week, 8 hours a day. Where her spouse, her husband, was still her primary caregiver, he still needed assistance with her. So, and her ability to walk reduced. And during this time, so that was being used maybe for about 5 years or so. And then her middle child was diagnosed with cancer, and he had to stop working. Unfortunately, for many reasons, of course, here's another incident of health insurance. He had, unbeknownst to his insurance broker, he decided to stop his group disability policy during their open enrollment, which was a few months beforehand, without discussing it with their insurance person. Even though that insurance person does not write the group, because he worked for a education division, we still reviewed it every year. But he had to stop working. And because of that, he had to use every cent he had to care for himself while he battled cancer. And unfortunately, he did pass away. And so the life insurance that was in place was then put into place. So far, we've talked about health insurance twice. We've talked about long-term care once. We've talked about life insurance. And unfortunately, 11 months after he passed away, his father, the primary caregiver of their mother, had 2 massive strokes and could no longer be her primary caregiver, and unfortunately needed to be put into a nursing home. And because the mother was also at that point mostly handicapped, even though she had her full faculties, she did not have the ability to use her body properly. And he had the ability to use his body, but not have his faculties. They were lucky enough to go into the same nursing home and actually into the same room. Somewhat of a shock going from a 2-bedroom home into a single room, but as I said, life does change in the blink of an eye. And so both of their long-term care policies were then activated in full force. And so that was utilized for the period of time that it lasted, and for each of them. And unfortunately, over time, she passed away 6.5 years later, and he passed away 9.5 years later. Much to everybody's surprise, nobody would have guessed that he would have survived 24 hours, let alone 9.5 years after such 2 massive strokes. Before she passed away, their eldest son is now diagnosed with a different kind of cancer. Now, he happened to have been a doctor, and he had to stop doing what he did. And he had great disability insurance. And so he is still alive. He still battles cancer. This is 8 years later. He has not been able to, be a doctor, intensive care specialist in a hospital, but he receives his full disability amount, and he's still able to work by writing papers, editing papers, and working a full-time job, making, good money. So here you have a multitude of insurances: health, long-term care, life, disability, all in one family. I don't have to talk about any family other than myself, because that's my family. And so,
Yes.
having a good team, having a good insurance person is always very important.
Yes, I see that now. I understand that. And as you said originally, people don't know what's going to be coming in the
Correct.
future. None of us has a crystal ball.
Right. And I guess I should have put in Medicare as well, because as my parents aged to Medicare, that's also another piece to it. So anyway.
The other thing that came to my mind as you were explaining this family is that it sounds like people should keep in contact with their insurance agent. Does the insurance agent keep in contact with us, or do we have to keep in contact with the insurance agent? I don't even know how that works.
Well, I believe it's a combination of things. So I try and speak to my clients at least once a year. Some clients I speak to, some contact me every month or every 3 months or every 6 months. I contact them. It depends on what they want or need. And
especially if I had changed something in insurance or used some others, like you mentioned that guy who switched to something else and didn't tell the insurance agent.
Correct. Right? Or if you change addresses, or
sure.
Let's say you wanted to change your beneficiaries on a policy. Let's say your children are past the age of the trust that you've put into place in your will or whatever. You want to change that as well. It depends. So yes, one would hope that your insurance broker or agent would reach out to contact you on a regular basis, or you contact them. Some people are no longer in the industry, so it depends.
Thank you. Very complex things. It's really important, this work you're doing. I want to turn a little bit to another topic of dealing with women, how specifically you would deal with women. As a married woman, I'd like to ask you, how does a woman make sure in case of a divorce that she would be covered? I'm asking this with no intention at all of divorcing my husband, and he better not divorce me. But it's information.
Okay. In the matter of divorce, there are different components. So let's talk about if there are children involved. It would be very important for that person's soon-to-be ex to have life insurance on themselves to help protect the children, actually. So even if it's an acrimonious divorce, which of course we always hope that it doesn't happen, one of the best things that I always say is, if life insurance is required for the divorce, that I guess we're talking about women, the woman or whomever the client is, they should own the policy on their soon-to-be ex. And the reason why they should own it is that they then are the ones who pay the premium. They then ensure the fact that they are the beneficiaries. If the ex owns the policy, the ex could stop payment on it. The ex could change the beneficiary without letting the other ex. I know this is complex because I can't say male or female or woman or man, because spouses are different today. Spouses could be a man and a woman. Spouses could be two men, two women. They could be they or them. So I want to be, I'm open to talking about all of it, and I don't want to just pigeonhole anybody. So I think in a divorce, it is very important that the opposite spouse, the soon-to-be ex, should own the policies on the other spouse.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Especially to protect the children. And that would be one piece of it. I think some of the other pieces are, have you thought about how much money you would need to continue the lifestyle that you would want, either during your working years or in retirement years? And have you done that before the divorce? Have you thought about, since we're talking about divorce, have you started to plan for that? So do you have a credit card in your name? And that has nothing to do with insurance. That's just, do you have finances in your name or the ability to get them? And that would also be a very important thing.
Yes, and inclusive. I'm glad you're saying the being inclusive as well, right? Since we're talking about women, is it easier for a woman who isn't pregnant to get insurance, or is it more difficult to get insurance if you are pregnant?
Well, it's better to get insurance either before you become pregnant or after the baby is born, after a period of time. But there are carriers that will write life insurance policies on women that are pregnant, and depending on how far along will depend on which carrier is more willing to write that policy, assuming that person's in good health, of course. It just means that while they are pregnant, their premiums might be higher because they are at a higher risk. So it's a risk calculation for an insurance carrier to give a life insurance policy on a woman who's pregnant. It's not just one life that they are insuring, in essence.
That's right. Yeah, that's interesting. It's very interesting. Gosh. And then, are there any specific types of insurances that protect women?
That's again, a tough one. All insurance protects all people, but when you're looking at women, we tend to live longer than men. We tend to need care because we live longer. So a long-term care policy would be very helpful for a woman to have. And just to give you an idea, on a life insurance policy, a policy on a woman is less expensive than a male if they're equal. Okay, age, health, etc. Because men they're higher risk. They tend to die earlier. Long-term care policies, the premium for a woman is higher than a man because the likelihood is the woman will need the care and need it for a longer period of time.
Okay.
Or different type of care later on.
Yeah.
So that would be one type. The other type would be what's called a survivorship policy, which is a life insurance policy, which could also be a long-term care policy. There are, fixed indexed annuities. Those are great for women as well. And of course, health insurance as a whole.
Let's just tell people how they can get in touch with you, please.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. You can always reach me by email at edavis@lifehealthhome.com. My phone number is 301-728-5505. And of course, I have a website, which is www.lifehealthhome.com.
Great. Thank you so much. It's been enjoyable to speak with you, and I think you've given us some very important information. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me. I do appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. We hope you enjoyed meeting our guest, Ellen Davis, as much as I have, and you might even think about checking on your insurance coverage. I know I'm going to check on mine. If you're a woman who has done exceptional things for your community or business that we can highlight, please email us. We're Woman's World TV at AOL.com. Remember, it's a woman's world. I'm Carolyn Bruna. See you next time.